Well, so my name is Karen Amundson. I'm the founder and CEO of Apiary Digital, and we are a digital marketing collective. So probably a little bit different than some of your audience. We're not coders and engineers, but we're working in digital marketing. And our model is we are a collective of experienced independent marketing consultants. And so what we do is we find the best consultants, the best talent, and then we find the clients and curate teams for performance marketing. So things like managing Google ads or Facebook ads, search engine optimization, analytics for marketing, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
yeah, so I started Apiary about 5 years ago officially, although it was sort of, a year and a half ramp up in the making before that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. So, what are your hobbies and who is a role model?
Oh, well, I love anything in the mountains, like going backpacking, mountain biking, in the water too, paddleboarding, pretty much anything outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a good way to immerse yourself in the tech world and then get out and away from things. And I feel like you just have the best insights when you move your body outside.
True.
And yeah, in terms of role models, I would say I have a lot of role models. That's one of my superpowers, is just finding good mentors. And, I think one of the things I've learned in building my company is I need to have really good advisors in every category, like whether it's, with finance or with people management. I have sort of developed relationships with just really good mentors that I can go to for those things. And so that's been, having that team of advisors has been really critical for me.
Awesome. That's a good advice. Having a great and right mentor at the right time helps you a lot. I totally agree. Yeah. So, talking about your journey, right from when you graduated to this day, what has been your, what has been this road like for you?
Yeah, well, I actually might back up a little bit farther than that, even before college. So my first job after high school, I worked in a bike shop, and I didn't go to college right away. And I was just, gonna, I don't know, work retail and sell bikes. I'm not really sure what my plan was at 18, but it was actually really great because I learned how to sell. I learned how to work with customers and help people to make decisions, which is really important when you're buying a bike. It's an expensive item. And I was working at the REI bike shop, and they had such a great management training program and just like a really good leadership style that was all about, as a leader, your job isn't to, tell everyone what to do. It's to get everyone to be able to lead themselves, really. And so that was a great kind of start. And also they really let me take initiative. Like I wanted to get more women into the bike shop because I felt like, women were kind of like, they would come in and they would be either like nervous, or some of the other salespeople would sort of talk down to them, like they didn't know what they were doing. And so I was able to create an event called Women's Cycle Fest, and we brought all of these vendors in to the store and just got all these women in. And that was great because it just gave me an opportunity from a young age to just take initiative and start something from scratch. And eventually I did end up going to college. I actually went, I was a cyclist myself, so I went on a bike racing scholarship to college in Tennessee, which is a really different part of the US, really different culture, and that was great. And so I got to be a student athlete, and I actually, it was my first time not living on the West Coast in the US, which is more liberal and different culture, and actually faced quite a bit of uphill headwinds being the only woman on the cycling team. And there was a lot of discrimination, to be honest. And I had never faced that before where I had come from. My teammates would try to like go on, training rides without me, or like one time they even took my bike off of the van that was going to the training ride. And I had to just kind of stick up for myself and navigate that, which unfortunately was really good preparation, I think, for going into the workforce. And so after college, I started working for an ad agency in San Francisco, and I had, I didn't really know much about what digital marketing was when I started. I got to hear this woman's talk at my school, and she was talking about A/B testing and, you know, how you can optimize your click-through rate and your conversion rate, and you can see your sales go up. And I just thought it was so cool because it's measurable. And as an athlete, I've always been a really competitive person. So I like the idea of just being able to actually see the difference that I was making. And so I just started, you know, looking for digital marketing jobs after that talk. And so I landed in San Francisco and doing paid search marketing, SEM. And that was awesome because it was like a great combination of sort of data driven and analytical and a lot of Excel, but also still, you know, you have to think about people and customers and what do people want. And so that was great. But it was also the sort of ad industry in the US is very much a churn and burn factory. Like you hire the most junior, cheapest resources you can, you work them really, really hard, you burn them out, and then and then they leave, which keeps costs low because people never get senior enough to really need to get paid more. So it's not a great environment, but it is actually great for learning because I learned a lot really quickly and, you know, was able to manage millions of dollars in ad spend pretty much right out of college, not knowing what I was doing. And I learned a lot. I met a lot of people. And I went to a B2B software startup and did that for a little while. But eventually I got to a point where I was actually kind of going through a breakup and someone needed to leave the apartment and I always wanted to travel. And so I said, hey, I'll leave the apartment. I'll quit my job. I'll go travel and, you know, figure it out later. It was sort of my idea with my career. But in that process, I started doing consulting. And fortunately, my boss at the time from the startup said, well, you know, can you bring a laptop and do some remote consulting for us? And I said, well, can I do that from New Zealand? And he said, yes. And so I got to start consulting. And then I was traveling and I kept getting more, you know, just projects from different people that I had worked with in the past who needed a little bit of help here and there. And, you know, a year or two later, there I was consulting and traveling. And I got to spend time in parts of Asia. And it was really inspiring. I got to spend only 11 days, but it was a really impactful 11 days in Bangladesh, actually. And I got to see everything from, I mean, the rural rice farming to the tech, the Bangladeshi tech bros, you know, and it was so cool to see what they were doing and how they were adapting technology to their environment. And you know, and also kind of like they face so many uphill challenges with the even like financial systems and currency, and they were going through political upheaval, and you know, like WhatsApp would just get shut down, you know, the government would decide, and here you had these thriving young entrepreneurs, and I thought, gosh, if they're doing this, what's my excuse? You know, I've always wanted to build a startup or be an entrepreneur. And so at that point I had, you know, a little bit too much work to take on myself. And I made the leap to, instead of just doing independent consulting, building teams of experts who, you know, were really good at what they did, because I only had one skill set and the clients needed all these skill sets. And rather than being a generalist, I wanted to have, you know, specialists. And so it was kind of an organic process. And then at some point, yeah, I kind of sucked it up and said, all right, I'm going to do this thing for real. I'm going to build a brand, and here we are.
Awesome. That's quite a journey, I would say. Yeah.
You know, the usual, I'm going to quit my job and figure it out later, and then accidentally start a company.
Yeah, it happens with everyone. Like they come to this point where they think, like, you know, they can do something better, and you know, they want to change the direction in their life. So they want to, you know, get out of you know, what is whatever they're going through currently, and then they just you know, pave a new path. So yeah, kudos to that. I mean, quite a journey. And going to Bangladesh is like a real you know, challenging thing, I would say, because you know, you get to know a lot of, you know, differences from east to west, actually. So it's I would say it's eye awakening for most of the people.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, talking about the journey, so what are some of the obstacles have you faced throughout this journey?
Well, I think one of the biggest obstacles is I was so junior when I started. I only had really 5 real years of professional experience when I started my company, which was kind of a blessing and a curse because I was too naive to know know any better. I think if I had waited until now to start my company, I would be too scared because, knowledge is power, but it also can hold you back. And what that meant is I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't know anything about, how to structure a company. I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't know anything about contracts. I didn't know how to scope work. I didn't know how to recruit and hire people. I mean, I just didn't know anything. And so it was just really hard because it was a crash course. I had to learn everything really, really quickly. And that's where having, kind of developing a team of people I can go to be a sounding board, and that became really helpful. But yeah, I mean, just not knowing anything.
Like you said, you are great at getting great mentors and creating path for yourself. That's a good thing, actually. So, what are some of the key achievements have you achieved throughout this journey?
Well, achievements. It feels weird talking about achievements. I think especially as women, we're trained to not talk about our achievements too much.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things, and I guess this kind of goes back to the mission of why Apiary, and really, I started the company in a pretty organic way, and I didn't, it wasn't like I had some grand plan of like, oh, I want to build this great thing. But partway through, I realized the thing that really kept me going when it was hard was I realized we were building a new way of working. And the, I'm just like a really driven, like I said, a really driven and competitive person. And I want to work on really high impact projects. I want to, drive really strong performance. I want to work for great, larger clients. But I also have just always been frustrated with the way work is. Like either you work, all of your time and you have no time to do anything, or you don't work and you have no money to do anything. And why are we if all we can do is work, like what are we doing? What are we doing on this planet if all we're doing is just working to death and, burning ourselves out? And so I think what I've built with Apiary is a system where we can work on really high impact projects, but we've figured out how to structure work in a way where, outside of work, people are farmers and artists, and they're building their own startups, and they're having babies and staying home with kids and still working on these really big brands and doing really amazing work. So, I mean, I think that my biggest accomplishment is just having an incredible team of people. Like the average years of experience on our team is 11 years, which is amazing because in our industry, some of these platforms that we're working in really haven't been around that long. And usually you get someone with 3 years of experience, in our industry. So I think just having a really experienced group and structuring work in a way where people can do what's important outside of work and have a good career and impact is probably one of my proudest accomplishments.
Awesome, awesome. That's true, actually, and I can totally relate to what you're saying. So, would you like to talk a little bit about Apiary Digital?
Sure. What do you want to know?
Everything that you want to tell.
Yeah. Well, I think yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the thing that is really our business, and the thing that we do is we're doing performance marketing. So we're helping our clients with customer acquisition and lead gen and e-commerce and things like that. And we're really successful with that, which is awesome. But yeah, I think that we are inventing a new way of working and thinking about talent. And if you think about the way business cycles work, it's very fluctuating, right? You have like, especially e-commerce, you have, Q4, you have huge spikes in revenue and work, and then, maybe a lull, and throughout the year, just any business, you have these business cycles, and yet you have talent structured in these fixed roles. So you have sort of like a fixed amount of talent, and then you have this fluctuating business cycle that really, those two things don't align. Your costs, you're either understaffed or you're overpaying for your staffing, and this doesn't make sense for business. And I think, one of the things that we're solving is how to align that, and it works great for people and and for businesses. And we've been remote for the whole time, so we didn't have to adjust for COVID, and that's been really nice. And especially in the US, we've had crazy, like, with the pandemic and riots and fires and hurricanes and power outages, like, it's been really nice that we're all remote and distributed, because we always have coverage. It's a kind of probably the next business continuity strategy, to be so dispersed. So
I would call it as a future of work.
yes.
Yes. Great, awesome. So what is one piece of advice would you like to give our female engineers or to our budding entrepreneurs to get into advertising or digital marketing, or just to find a startup, or maybe just follow their dreams?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's sort of two things. One is, and I guess this kind of goes back to, obstacles and things that are hard, especially as a founder. And I think this is something that people don't talk about, but, I think mental health is really important in your work life, and especially if you're going to go the route of being a founder. And I think that, like, it's okay if you're like, if you find that you're not well, it's okay. And everybody goes through that, and if you find that you think you're, failing or whatever, just like being okay with that. You don't have to always be successful or feel successful. You don't always have to be well. And everybody, like, people fake their way through it, and you never know, but everybody struggles sometimes, and that shouldn't stop you from doing what you want to do. And then I think another thing that I would say is, I think a lot of women, you find yourself in an environment where you always feel like you have to prove yourself, and you don't have to prove yourself, and the way that I kind of think about that is, especially, like I mentioned, I was a cyclist, and I was usually the only girl on the ride with a bunch of boys. And what I felt at that time, as a teenager, was, if the boys made a mistake, or they crashed, or they, couldn't hop the bike over the log, it was just, oh, they made a mistake. But if I did it, it felt like then I didn't belong there, and I had to prove myself. And you just, the great thing about starting your own company is you create your own world, and you create the world for other people around you. And you can just kind of like, create that space where, no, you just made a mistake. It doesn't mean you don't belong there. Keep writing, keep going. So that's kind of one of the things I would say.
That's really, really great, and thanks for that advice, actually. And I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, we have to prove ourselves at each and every stage we are at. So that's really true.
No,
so
you don't have to prove yourself anymore. You're done.
Yes. I would say to even if one piece of advice I have to give to our budding engineers or entrepreneurs, I would say don't try to prove yourself to everyone. Just try to be competitive with yourself, and just try to improve yourself each and every day. So that's one piece of advice from my side, though I don't give a lot of advices.
Well, it's a lot of wasted energy and creativity if you're trying to prove yourself, or you're trying to be really successful by the definition of the men in the room. You're never going to be you're never going to be a better version of a man. You're a woman, and just do your best. And it saves a lot of energy, because that's a lot of attention and time you can put into your craft.
That's true. So going ahead with our last question, what is one thing that you want to change in this world, and why?
Well, I think that I want to change the way we work. I want to change the way we structure work. I want work to be a thing that enables us to do what's important in life, where one of the things that's important in life is having a high impact career and really being able to make a difference. And that's something that I want to have, of course I'm a woman, right? And a lot of my team are women. We're a woman, definitely a women-led company, but I really want that to be accessible for men as well, because I think that if men don't have that flexibility, you can't have equality, because they can't be, picking up more childcare and household things. And so I want to make the way that we work more lifestyle friendly and high impact for everyone.
That's actually true. We need to be, in fact, not just highly impactful. I would say it should be more collaborative than competitive. So that is something, even I want to see. I want to change in this, industry when it comes to, let's say, entrepreneurship or let's say tech. So yeah, I think that's it from our side. Thanks a lot, Karen, for your time and sharing with us your journey.